Alrighty, and it's that time of the day again. I'm starting to become my favourite time of the day when we're doing our reflections broadcasts. I've had such a good time already, and I think we're in for another great chat again today. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for the next instalment on our reflection series. And good afternoon to everybody who's watching from a bit later from our links, either on LinkedIn or via YouTube. As an insolvency practitioner, I do like to look at the learnings that come about from businesses or ventures that might find themselves in distress, in order to advise others on how to attempt to mitigate against making similar mistakes in the future. And in the same vein, I like to look at my colleagues and contacts, friends, to hear what they've learnt from their different experiences, as I think it builds towards a wealth of knowledge. And this is why in this series, I'm talking with a number of esteemed and accomplished individuals to see what 2021 has meant to them, the lessons they've learned, and what might be ahead of 2022 or for 2022. Today, I'll be speaking with Catherine Ballantyne, who's a partner at Madgwicks Lawyers. I'll bring you in now, Catherine. Welcome. Lovely to see
Alice. You too.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us today. We've made it to the end of 2021. Look, it's been a big year. From what I've seen, you've also had a pretty big year. I thought it had happened a little while ago, but this year you made me partner at Madgwicks, so a massive congratulations for that.
Thank you. That's correct. I feel like it's been 6 months, but I feel like I've just sort of stepped in and, it doesn't feel new to me anymore. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's a strange year, or maybe it's because I was always destined, but, it's been fabulous. Yeah.
Oh, isn't that fabulous? You've done a few other interesting things. I've been loving your video updates, especially in terms of some of the different cases and things. I found them incredibly helpful. And you've also had a couple of appearances on ABC Radio, haven't you?
I have. Pretty much from the start of COVID, throughout, they've been wanting to hear about what businesses are doing, what lawyers are doing, how they're going. And they've had someone from New South Wales and me representing Victoria, Damien Carrick on the ABC Radio National. It's been fabulous, really, because we've been with New South Wales. We've probably both been hit the hardest in Australia, but at different times in different ways. So, last year we sort of felt like Melbourne, we thought we were sort of opening up, and then it became a huge shock this year when we went back into lockdown. I don't think we were necessarily mentally prepared. I don't think, businesses were expecting, I don't think any of us were expecting it to be as bad this year as it was in 2020, but it really was. So when you said we've made it, I think that is so true. It's been a bit of an ordeal.
Oh, absolutely. I saw a really good meme a few weeks ago saying, don't anybody say that 2022 is their year. Like, creep really quietly up to it. Let's not make any great plans, because I think this time last year we were all like, great, we're sort of, we're doing what we're doing. Things are opening up. We're all going to get back to a sense of normalcy, whatever that is. Yes. And then it's sort of...
And we were hit again.
We were hit again. And I was speaking with you earlier, and I think in my brain, I can't quite comprehend that 2020 and 2021 were two separate years. I've sort of got it all jumbled together with everything that's happened. So, I for one will be creeping into 2022 to hope for the best, and we'll get there quietly, and hopefully things will have a bit of a turnaround.
I think that's right. I think we're all just, I think we've all just got our fingers crossed for next year. No one wants to jinx it, but we're slowly getting there. We're going in optimistically. Well, I am, but whether that, comes to fruition, let's just wait and see. Yeah.
Oh, look, absolutely. So tell me, Catherine, what did 2021 mean to you?
Well, it was the year I became a partner at Madgwicks, so that was fabulous and exciting and wonderful. And it was during an incredibly difficult time. I mean, I was trying to think of words to describe 2021, and I just don't think that they're appropriate for this forum. I think some of the words that most people would describe the last 2 years, really, especially for us in Melbourne, but all over Australia. I mean, it was just incredibly difficult. I think everybody struggled one way or the other during lockdown, whether it was, the horrors of homeschooling, whether it was being isolated, whether it was not seeing family and friends. We all struggled. But having said that, and I know this has been reiterated by some of your other guests, we all made it through. And can I say, our team, I was so proud of them. They did an incredible job. We were incredibly busy, and they just got on with it, and they did so well. I was just so proud of our team because we had a lot of work, and they everyone was suffering one way or another, and clients included, businesses incredibly suffering. But, we made it through.
Oh, fabulous. And I think that's it, isn't it? It's sort of struggling. I said to one of my team members today, we're crawling. Yeah, we're crawling towards Friday. We're finished up officially on Friday. We've got a skeleton stuff and what have you, but it's sort of let's just get to Friday and we'll see how we go from there. I'm interested to talk a little bit more. You talk about the team and how they've done really well. And one of the things I've been really interested in, and we've been sort of looking at different, options and avenues ourselves, is how have you been able to sort of maintain that connection with your team through these times? Have you done anything sort of specifically to try and really nurture that?
Yeah, we did it a lot on an individual level, of course, checking in with people, but we had a lot of things. We had, training, which people came along to, but that's sort of part of course, whether you're in the office or not. But we tried to do some fun things. One of the senior associates put on a trivia night, and it's reconfirmed my inability to do trivia. I was terrible at it, but it was such a great night. It was fun. I ran a little competition, you're in lockdown when, ... And we had some great photos and memes from the team. There were a lot of, bad hair days, a lot about animals, discussing complex case with your animal. We had a few people who were so bored they'd created Instagram accounts for their dogs. It was really good. One of the ones that really made me laugh was one of the girls, she showed us her Uber Eats order, and it was to her local cafe, and it was one cafe latte, which was quite normal, and then the next one was one egg, special instructions, raw and in its shell. I'm making banana bread and I've run out of eggs, so and that one cracked me up. The things that we do.
You've got some really good thinkers in your team, if that's how they're going about it. Very resourceful.
That's what I thought. I thought, wow. So there were just so many funny ones, and it really, we needed a laugh, and it really gave us that. We did Friday night drinks remotely, and we discovered who had places who delivered cocktails, nearby, which I discovered I had a place during lockdown that delivered cocktails, which was very exciting for Friday nights.
Absolutely. And did you learn of any specific cocktail cravings that you didn't know that you had?
No, not really. I sort of found a favourite one and I stuck with that. I should have, branched out a bit, but I sort of found a favourite cocktail, and it'd be like my Friday night sort of thing. But unfortunately, I tried to order it the other night, and now we're out of lockdown. They're not delivering anymore. So that was a bit sad.
There you go. Can we ask what it was? What was the favourite cocktail?
I can't remember. It's called Mr. and Mrs. P, and it's like a signature cocktail of the place where they do it, and it's got vodka. I'm not much of a gin girl. I know a lot of people are, and it's just things you discover about your team, not just their drink. It's not all about drinking, but you discover a lot about your team when you're on Friday night. I mean, I think I know everyone's pets now.
Isn't that fabulous?
It's just wonderful. I've spoken to their kids, it's fabulous.
Absolutely. My kids, when we were sending out care packages to the team, so they're sort of just learning to read, my kids as well, so they knew the names, and they often still ask me, how's so-and-so going? How's so-and-so going? And it's a very nice connection, I think, to have with the family, with your team. So, that's really great, isn't it? And I've just got a message here from Nicole Davidson. She loves your competition idea, Catherine. So there you go. You might get somebody else.
Well, I think I might have stole that. I actually saw it on LinkedIn from one of the accounting firms, I think in Sydney, had done it. And so I thought, what a great idea. We need that. So it wasn't actually my original idea. It was one of the accounting firms in Sydney were showing it on LinkedIn. And I thought, wow, I'm sure we've got some, great, yeah.
No, that's
We've
right.
got funny people at the firm.
And now a lot of pets with Instagram. We're not immune from that. Millicent Moo the Spoodle is my pet's Instagram handle. So
oh, I love it. We're all going to be checking that out. I love it.
So obviously making partner was a massive milestone, Catherine, for 2021. Do you have any others, or sort of are they all sort of second or down the list?
I think they're all down the list. And also I think, like everyone, just getting through 2021 and still being able to laugh about it and look back on it and say we've made it. I think that was huge. Yeah, I think that was huge. I mean, there was so many, not for me, but so many weddings put off and just so many people, every time you sort of made a plan and another restriction had come in and you're like, oh, okay, cancel that. So I think, I think just making it through was an achievement for everyone.
I agree. And I think that's a very big milestone, a very big achievement. And I think we will remember, this year and last year specifically for that. So what about challenges then? What can you tell us about some challenges that you might have faced this year?
Yeah, well, everything went online. And I know you've discussed this with your other guests too. But so I do think, and Nicole will know about this being a mediator, I think doing mediations online is just that little bit harder. We still had plenty that settled, but it's just that little bit harder. Into having witnesses examined in court once again, just that bit harder. We had, instances. I had one instance where a witness lit up a cigarette while essentially on the stand, and I almost fell over. I was like, what are they doing? And then you always ask them, is there someone else in the room? But there's no way to prove that the other witnesses aren't in. We've had instances where a witness is there and then they're sort of looking every question, they're looking up like this over their screen. And so we've had to really say, look, you're under oath. Is there someone telling you how to answer? So those sorts of things have been challenging, but also it shows it can be done.
Yeah, look, absolutely. Yeah. I've got to admit, and sort of operating a practice in Victoria and in Queensland, where I would normally be travelling quite often, and that not being the case in the last couple of years, it's been quite good. We had a mediation on Wednesday that was in Melbourne. Now, I would either have normally had to have flown to Melbourne if I could at that time, or I've got good staff that have authorities to do those things as well. But it was great. I was there, for the whole kit and caboodle. We were able to have that mediation. But they are difficult online as well. We had one, exactly what you were talking about from sort of the examination or cross-examination point of view. But we had one, I'm quite a stickler, and not to keep bringing Nicole up, but I did mention this in Nicole's podcast earlier in the year. I really don't like a joint session in a mediation. It's one of the things that I'm not a fan in the best of times. But you're sort of quite selective a lot of the time as to who you'll have in that joint session. And one of the things that we've had recently is people who should be on their own, but with the green screen, and then you'll just often see someone else's arm coming out of the side, and it's sort of like, well, that doesn't really have the same impact, I don't think, as when you're actually in there in person. And the other thing that we've sort of had issues with is, we're the client, and I understand that, and sort of you guys as the lawyers and also with counsel have different relationships with other advocates. And so sort of actually going into another room or, as it's been sometimes running down to get a coffee with your counterpart, and there's discussions I know that I had at that part that can sometimes assist mediations to settle. That hasn't happened as much. And I think, everybody being quite, in their box in particular, that sort of hindered, I think, somewhat settlements in mediation.
I think so too.
It's taken a long time.
Well, that's right. It's had to be a deliberate, conscious act to have an offline conversation with the other counsel or the other solicitor. Whereas, as you say, often you might bump into them while you're making a cup of tea or going and getting a coffee or something, and you can have a bit of a chat and say, come on, let's see if we can nut this out between us. Surely we can get there. But I agree. It's harder online. Some things are more streamlined online, like directions hearings are a lot easier and quicker and more efficient online. When you don't have witnesses, when you don't have clients, and it's things like timetabling or arguing about documents, much, much better online than having to sort of sit down at the court and wait your turn. But I do think witnesses and mediations, however much they can be done online, and we've proved that they can be, I do believe they are better in person and more efficient in person. Having said that, we've settled many, many cases this year, and I haven't been into a courtroom for, I think, almost 2 years.
Yeah, isn't that interesting, especially as much as you would normally be in there? So Nicole's obviously agreeing with you in terms of, the gravitas of people participating in some of those sort of legal proceedings. I think as well, for mine, just a very practical, but probably, I don't know, it seems a bit silly to say it. However, the online mediations that I've had, I would like a noise or a knock at the door or a sort of, Tinkerbell music when the mediator's about to come in, because I've been caught a few times sort of in the throes of, where we're at in our position on something. And then automatically someone just popped up. And it's like, oh, okay. We have to deal with that.
Or sometimes if the client has gone off and he's not in the room, you might be speaking to the barrister about another case. If they've logged out briefly and gone off. So then when someone else pops in, you got to go. Or I had one where the mediator popped in and I had my dog on screen. And we were all, there's a lot of downtime in mediations. We were waiting for the other side to come back. So I think, there were about 5 of us participating in different locations. So we were all showing each other our dogs. So the mediator came back in with dogs everywhere. It was quite funny.
I'm sure they would have found it particularly funny as well.
That's true.
Just on that vein, and talking about settling, and I've asked a few others this as well, but we've noticed, so early on in between, say, March and September 2020, look, cash was king. They told us that during the GFC, it was very much credit. It was how much credit can I get and how much can I work from a business perspective. During COVID, credit, we found, was less of an issue, but more so was cash. People were holding on to their cash. So obviously they had a lot of stimulus. We did obviously have the method to the banks and the bank guarantee or government guaranteed bank loans and these sorts of things. But it seemed that business people generally weren't as concerned about obtaining credit. They wanted to hoard their cash. So we found personally during that time matters quite difficult to settle, and it was very difficult to get people to complete sort of certain arrangements, payment plans, etc., that we had in place at that point in time. But we seemed to cross a bit of a barrier just after that. I think sort of towards this time last year, we had a few quite large matters that settled for significant amounts to be paid over relatively short periods. And it was as though that there was a bit of a war chest for people. They could see opportunity coming, with respect to whether it was the stock market or property or those sorts of things at that time. And they wanted to be free of some of the shackles I think they'd been holding on to for some time. We found that we had quite a few matters that were settled at that point. A number of them then led to the discharge of bankrupts or annulment of bankruptcy, so that people were able to get on with life, as it were. And since then, we have found an ongoing sort of propensity to settle on matters. I'm just wondering, have you seen something similar, or do you have any other insights in terms of that sort of thought process that might be going on?
Yeah, I think a lot of businesses, a lot did genuinely struggle. A lot were helped by all the government grants, and it actually, JobKeeper, the rent relief, all of that kind of thing. So it actually meant that they had more cash than they were expecting. What I've noticed, the propensity to settle, I haven't noticed a huge difference, but I have noticed an uptick in litigation. I think a lot of people were holding their breath till maybe mid this year and saying, look, let's just wait and see what's happening, wait and see where our business is. We don't want to pursue debts too much. We don't want to, businesses genuinely, a lot of businesses genuinely were struggling. So people did want to give them a break. And then sort of mid this year, we noticed that people were like, well, we can't hold on forever. We've got the money. We're gonna pursue the litigation, and we've just noticed an explosion in litigation. We've just got a lot of commercial litigation, whether it's the debt collection type thing, or whether it's more unit holders or shareholders or directors disagreeing, and you're more what we call oppression matters. So where a shareholder feels they haven't been treated right, or the company is struggling because people are arguing. Sometimes people, I think recently a lot of people have reassessed what they want to do in their life. So one person exiting and how to do all of that. So there's just been a huge amount of litigation. And I think just naturally when that happens, 90% of cases settle. So I haven't seen a huge uptick in settlement, but I've seen a huge uptick in litigation in general.
Well, that's really interesting, and from an insolvency practitioner's perspective, very promising. But I think that's really interesting. I think as well, and I said this the other day also, but with this COVID period, we've had a huge uptick in family law matters and relationship separations and these sorts of things. And when you think about how much time you spend not only with your domestic partner but also with your business partners, and having to do those things, when there are significant milestones, you're right, people assess things differently, don't they? One might want to hold on and the other might want to exit, and you need to then try and deal with that.
Well, that's exactly right. And I think also people had time as well. They weren't doing anything else. They weren't socialising. So people had time to focus on the issues. They couldn't sort of ignore them forever, and they're sitting there, they've got time on their hands, and so the issues are sort of getting to the pointy end, and people are either, figuring out a way through, or it's ending up with lawyers. Yeah.
No, absolutely. So looking at all of that, what are your main lessons that you've learned from this year? Can you tell me?
Well, I think I like you. I think you and I were saying 2020 and 2021 I sort of just put in one big chunk together. So over the last 2 years, I have learned some great things. I've learned that it can work online, court cases, mediations, all of that. We can do it, and it can be done well, even though we've talked about some of its shortcomings. It can be done. I think also one of the big things is just the team being able to get through it. I think we've proven flexibility works. And I really do think that people, whether they're mothers, fathers, or people without children, I think are really focusing on flexibility, work-life balance. And I think, it's been shown now to employers and employees that it can work incredibly well. And I think, and I'm hoping, and I think most firms will do this, there is some element of flexibility continuing, because pre-COVID, flexibility was sort of seen as a woman's problem, and I put that in inverted commas because I never saw it as a problem, but it was seen as a woman with children's problem. Whereas now, I think I'm hoping that it's changing a bit, and it's being seen that something that people without children, male and female, want, and are entitled to have a work-life balance. You don't want to burn people out. People need to be a well-balanced, well-rounded person. Yeah.
No, look, absolutely. I think, well, I'm not sure where I heard it, but there was a study done, and the outcome was that if you are a woman and you leave your desk, pack up to leave at between 3 and 4 in the afternoon, irrespective if anybody knows that you have children or if you don't have children, or you may be a single woman with no children, the assumption is that you're going to pick up somebody's children.
Yes.
They don't know who, but if you're packing up around that time, then that's what you're off to do. If you're a male in the same situation, then you're going to the gym. And it's just really interesting. And I'm hoping that these sorts of a lot of the issues that have come up and that we've been able to, I think, conquer a little bit, through this period in terms of flexibility and, the I don't know if wasteful is the term, but how long we spend commuting, and how much other time we could be, what we could be doing with that time. That hopefully we're sort of, I don't know, dismantling some of those stereotypes that was there before. But it's funny that you talked about it, potentially being a woman's problem, and we both of us don't think it's a problem, so that's why we put it in those inverted commas. But that just the characterization that that's what women do at 3 o'clock is pick up the kids. Not going to the gym. And it made me think, because when I was back, when we were still at 90 William Street, I used to go to the gym all the time at 3 o'clock before kids. I think, I wonder what everybody must have thought about that, and then come back all, sweaty afterwards. But it is what it is, and hopefully we're working through some of those things now. Catherine, 2022, we're creeping up. We're not anybody trying to spare 2022. Softly. What do you think you might have in store?
Look, I'm going into it optimistically. I am hoping that it will be much better than the last couple of years. I'm hoping, we've got the vaccinations happening and the booster shots, and soon to be the children, because certainly here in Melbourne, that's where there's COVID cases everywhere going around the schools, because the kids under 12 aren't vaccinated, or it may just be kids under 12 are also more in contact with each other. Social distancing is hard for small children. I think only grade 3 and above are mask wearing and the others aren't. So I'm going in optimistically that I'm hoping things will be much better. I'm hoping, businesses bounce back, and so far a lot of them seem to have. So I'm going in very optimistically.
Oh, fabulous. That's really great to hear. Look, thank you so much for your time today. It's been really fabulous, and I'm enjoying seeing the year from so many points of view. Having the opportunity to chat with everybody about the year has been a real highlight of my year, to be honest. I hope the rest of your year goes really well, that you're able to have a good break, hopefully, and recoup before coming back to 2022, whatever that might look like. And I thank everybody watching today, or who may be watching this a little bit later. Join me again tomorrow when I'll be talking to Nathaniel Kittingan from McPherson Kelly for his reflections on 2021. Thank you, Catherine. I'm really appreciative of your time today. See you later.
Thanks for having me. Thanks.